Gonna get started, so
There we go.
you just give it a couple seconds so we can let people in.
Will do. You tell me when you want me to get started with the meeting, to call the meeting to order.
Let's just give it another 30 seconds because I just started the webinar. I want the attendees to get in, anyone who wants to, any of the public who wants to attend.
Oh, there's all these like new lights on in this new Zoom thing.
Okay, it's been a minute. I think we can get started.
Okay, great.
Other
Oh,
people will come in as it gets going.
fantastic. Okay, so I'm calling to order the Common Council Ordinance Committee meeting. It's the regular meeting, April 16th, 2024, and we're starting it at 7:02. We have a full quorum here. Heather Dunn, Josh Goldstein, Johan Lopez, Melissa Murray, Nora Najowski-Eitner, and Jalen Seed. Jalen, yep, there's Jalen. We're all here. So calling the meeting to order. The first action is to have a public hearing to discuss and vote on Chapter 19, which is bidding and purchasing, sections 19.1 and 19.2. And essentially, just to remind the public what we're doing here, we are basically just having our procurement policy mimic that of what the state allows. And what we're basically doing is collecting the maximum amount set forth in section 7-148V. And so if there's anybody here who would like to speak to the matter, bidding and purchasing, 19.1, 19.2, if they would please raise their hands, that would be great.
All right, just so the record is aware, we have Sharon Connors, who was kind enough to join us from the purchasing department in case anyone has any questions. Let me see if anybody is raising their hand. And this is again only for the first item, which is the bidding and purchasing, Chapter 19. We have one member, one attendee who would like to speak. It's Diane Laura Chella. Diane, you can lower your hand and unmute yourself, and please go ahead. Just give your full name and address for the record.
Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
We can. Thank you.
Okay, my hands are full, so I can't lower my hands yet. Sorry. Anyway, for the record, my name is Diane Lauricella of 21 Little Fox Lane. Tonight, I wanted just to speak to, of course, Chapter 19, but 19.2 related to the procurement guide. Of course, I think it's terrific that we follow what the state has, but what is missing, and I think might have been helpful, and maybe in a future amendment, if not this one, for the procurement guide, and is to ensure that we attempt to purchase fair trade materials, reflect true life cycle costs of different products, use green products, and the EPA has a list of many, and there are many lists available for ESG, and recyclable products. Now, I do not know if this is germane to this particular amendment, but I would like this ordinance committee to consider this, if not now, then in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else who would like to speak on the bidding and purchasing procurement, Chapter 19? Okay, seeing that there's no one else who's got their hand raised on that matter, what we'll do now is consider and vote whether to take this matter to our full common council at their next meeting. So I would love to entertain a motion to that effect. If somebody'd like to move that.
Lisa, I just want to make one change, if everyone's okay with it. It's in 19-1. Well, actually, you know what? Forget about it. It says Connecticut General Statutes are the first part of it, so I don't need that change. Forget my comment.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought we had, I thought we had that right.
Yeah.
Good. So then back to the future, which is, can we entertain a motion to take Chapter 19 to the full council? Thank you, Melissa, for doing that. Does anybody want to discuss this matter further? We had a pretty full discussion at our last meeting. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of voting to take Chapter 19 bidding and purchasing to the full common council for a vote. Jalen, you've got your hand up, yes? And Heather, yes or? Oh, okay, everybody voted yes. So that has been done. The next item on our agenda is to
Thank you,
discuss.
Sharon.
Yes,
Thank
thank you,
you,
Sharon.
guys.
Have a nice evening. Go out and enjoy this great weather.
I'm going to do that. Thank you again,
Get
everybody.
outside. Discuss and vote on Chapter 103, Taxation, Article 5, Board of Assessment and Appeals, Section 103-14. And again, we're opening up the public hearing for anyone who would like to make a comment on that matter. If so,
Hold on,
please raise your
we have
hand.
a hand raised. Diane, if you could unmute yourself, just give again your full name and address for the record, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and the committee. My name is Diane Lauricella, 21 Little Fox Lane. I just wanted to state that especially when we have our revaluations, it does make good sense to increase the numbers. There's a lot of work to do, and so I approve that. But what I find would be in addition, and again, I would hope maybe that someone could put this forth as an amendment for this round, if not a future round, and that is I want to ensure that there is better training of those that we have doing the assessment appeals hearings and review the conflict of interest guidelines. In the near future, I will clarify why I am stating this for the record, but right now, I think now is as good a time as ever, since we are having a lot of hearings, that we remind the good servants on this appeals board of their duty to declare conflicts of interest and to avoid them, as well as making sure they're trained in all the most recent laws related to their work. Thank you very much.
Are there other comments?
Oh, let me just double check to make sure.
If I may just thank Diane for her comments, and I will pass them along to the rest of the board. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Ash.
There's no one else who has raised their hand about this matter, Lisa.
Okay, great. So I'm going to close the public hearing on Chapter 103, Taxation, Article 5, and ask for a motion to take this to the full Common Council, and then we can have a discussion. So is there a motion to take it to the full Common Council? Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Any discussion about this? Just before I open it for discussion, the one thing I did want to have Brian do is explain to people the process. We did have one open question regarding the timing of when these people may be appointed to the additional members may be appointed to the board. So
Yeah,
just
so after our last meeting, I had a conversation with Doris from the BAA where she provided me with more background information and guidance about some of the concerns that they had, specifically about having enough volunteer BAA members to help with all the appeals and to make sure that they don't run out because some of these appeals can run over the year. So we went back and we took a look at the statute and it indicates that you can put BAA volunteers on in any assessment year. So each of the years that we have a revaluation, following that revaluation would be an assessment year. So we can nominate people, additional members to serve with the regular members to assist them so that they don't get burned out, so that they're not overstretching themselves, and we're allowing many people to help out with this. So that was the primary concern, to help out our volunteers that are trying to help out all the residents in Norwalk with this process.
great. So thank you very much for that feedback, Ms. Ash. It's really helpful so that we know that this ordinance is doing what you need to have it do. Any further
Absolutely.
comment? Thank you. And then just one other point on ethics, because I think Nora and Brian both have a lot of experience in this, but every member of any commission is always subject to the ethics commission and the ethic rules of our city ordinance, right? So it's
Yes.
so that doesn't really need to be embedded in every ordinance because it's
No.
overwhelming for.
No, the Code of Ethics, Chapter 32, specifically indicates that city employees, elected and appointed officials, and even members of the Board of Education are all subject to the Code of Ethics, Chapter 32. It's in our ordinances. It's also in our charter, both the old charter and the new charter. So, and we're going to hopefully be doing something in the near future. We've been working on something where we're going to try to put together YouTube slides to inform members of the public and those who work or volunteer on to the city about each of the sections of the Code of Ethics so that everyone can get more informed about it if necessary.
Great, thank you. So having made those comments, oh, I was going to say, does any member of the committee have some questions? And Melissa, it appears that you do, and then Johan.
I just wanted to make a supportive comment to Brian about the PowerPoint slides, because I actually did sit down and read the ethics chapter, and it's nuanced. So I think having a lawyer who knows the intent of it would really help. You know, I have graduate degrees, and I found it a little follow a rather large document. So a PowerPoint with an explanation would definitely be helpful. So I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. Johan, what would you like to say?
I just have a quick question. On section A, it says that the mayor shall appoint, and then I think the subsequent sentence says until their successor is elected. Does elected mean appointee as it's stated above? Or maybe am I reading, or am I just kind of misinterpreting something?
I guess it's not a bad point. We could change the word from elected to appointed to be more clarifying. What do you think?
Somebody take a look at A again real quick, Johan. Thank you for raising.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, I mean,
No, I think that could be a good
just,
catch. I think that you are appointed and not elected.
Mhm.
Right, yeah.
Yes, it should be appointed and not elected.
Okay, so let's note that change, and then we can vote on that change after everybody makes comments to see if there's others, and then we can go forward. Thank you. That's a very good catch.
Okay, yeah, no, thanks, Ash. Okay, thanks.
Josh?
Just stemming from Johan's point, I actually think until their successor is appointed, and then it kind of ends on a fragment. So it says, and has qualified, period. I don't know what that means relative to if they're appointed and is what?
It should
confirmed?
maybe it should
Then-
read, each regular member shall serve a term of 4 years from the date of appointment until their successor is appointed and confirmed. Because the mayor appoints and then the common council confirms.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we use the word qualified for this anywhere else. I think
Right.
confirmed, or you could even write confirmed by the common council. Because
Confirmed.
in
I like being
E1,
specific.
it says subject to confirmation by the common council. I
Yeah,
would just
so-
repeat that same language.
So is that
That's-
what
yeah.
I just put in? Each regular member shall serve a term of 4 years from the date of appointment and until their successor is appointed and confirmed by the common council.
Yep.
Okay.
Good changes.
Yep.
The only question I had, and I was looking at the minutes, which was about timing and of when the mayor has the ability. So if this, reval happens last year, this year's the assessment year.
Mhm.
Does that mean that the mayor would only be able to appoint someone in the calendar year in which it is the assessment year? B, can the mayor appoint someone and say, get them confirmed, let's say I'm gonna make this up, December 2023, in anticipation of the assessment year coming in 2024? And I know
So-
I sort of
yeah.
asked the timing question, and I'm not sure if that got fleshed out or not.
That's what I
Right,
thought we were
so-
responding to. Yeah.
Yeah, so General Statutes 9-199C allows for the appointment of additional members to the BAA for any assessment year. So it's my opinion that members can be appointed at any point following a revaluation. So our last revaluation is essentially, the assessment year is essentially ending at the end of 2023. So in theory, we could have BAA members appointed in 2023 at the end of the last revaluation at the end of those assessment years, and can continue on for another year. And we can have additional members reappointed in any of the assessment years following the revaluation to assist with the process.
Got it. Okay, so it's
No,
not like
that
it's
was
a
a
tight
good point, and you
timeline.
raised that at the last meeting as well. I forgot to raise that with you this time.
No. I appreciate it. And I mean, you've essentially answered the question, which is the mayor has some flexibility in when the mayor can appoint additional members of the Board of Assessment Appeals as the board is considering assessments stemming from a reval. So it's
Correct.
not like the mayor has to decide within a very fixed period of time.
No, there's nothing in the statute that says the mayor shall do this within specific timing
Right.
after it. It just says any assessment year. And so we're being assessed we're being assessed for each of those years following a revaluation. So we can we can add additional members as necessary. And obviously the BA will be in contact with us if they're starting to get shorthanded.
Okay. Otherwise, I think
Great.
this is ready to go.
Great.
Thank you again
Okay,
to
so,
Doris and Don for their
Thank you.
assistance in this process.
Thank you very much.
so the next thing
Thanks.
we're going to do is, I would like to entertain a motion to make the changes to section 103-14 as, thank you, Josh, as both Mr. Goldstein and Mr. Lopez suggested. So that motion's on the table. All in favor of making the amendments to the language of 103-14A? Please raise your hand in support. I think that that is unanimous. Great. And so now the next question on the table, I would entertain a motion to vote to take Chapter 103 Taxation Article 5 to the full council. Thank you, Josh, for the motion. All in favor? Great. So that is unanimous as well. Thank you. And we're making progress here. So the next item is to discuss and vote in Chapter 63, Law Department, Section 63(1) through 63(7). If the public, is there anybody who would like to make a public comment on that? If they would raise their hand now, Brian would recognize them.
I don't see anybody raising their hand as it pertains to this matter.
Okay, so I will close public hearing on Chapter 63, Law Department, Section 63(1) through 63(7). And I would entertain a motion to vote to take this to the full public, to the full Common Council. Thank you, Melissa Murray, made the motion. And I will open up the discussion to discuss Chapter 63. If any of our committee members has any thoughts or comments on this matter. And I think the only thing that we really had open last time, we were discussing a little bit with Ms. Dunn and Mr. Goldstein, the question as to whether or not we ought to reference the contract that corporation counsel lawyers have. And I think we felt as though that's something that's probably not a good idea because contracts change. So that we discussed. I don't know if there's other questions or concerns that people might have that we should discuss. Hearing none, we've got the motion on the table. All in favor of taking this to the full Common Council, please indicate their hands. So that's also unanimous. So that is great. So those 3 items are done, Brian. So put that on your list to take everything over to Common Council. The next matter is just general public comment. So if anybody would like to make a public comment on an item that is on the agenda.
And just for the record, the first one, Chapter 19, there were no changes made besides the changes that had already been posted in the legal notice. There were no changes to Chapter 63 during our conversation today. The only changes that were made were to Chapter 103-14A and B, and the Ordinance Committee already approved those and approved to send all the changes over to the Common Council.
That is it.
Okay.
So that's good. Okay, so public comment, really the only matter that's here for public comment today would be on the leaf blower ordinance section 4. So if anybody is here to make public comment on that section of the leaf blower ordinance, they can raise their hand and we'll recognize them.
Right. So right now we have 2 people. I'm just going to go in the order in which they raise their hand. The first one is Diane again. Diane, you can lower your hand. Please again, give your full name and address for the record, and please go ahead.
Thank you. For the record, Diane Lauricella, 21 Little Fox Lane. I wanted to first thank the council and the chair, as well as Brian, for all their work on this very controversial ordinance that happened over the last months ago. I always am happy when amendments are made to improve any law, since, of course, I'm a former regulator and also a former professional health and safety or OSHA professional when I worked with consulting firms and the state of Connecticut. So I wanted to ask that someone add the word batteries, because it is a safety issue, although not equipment that one wears on one's body. But because so far the Ordinance Committee of the Council did not take up my suggestion of having a separate section or piece about manufacturer recommended and rated batteries, I thought just to get it over, to expedite it, I ask that you consider literally just asking in the phrase under section 4, without manufacturer recommended and rated batteries and personal protective equipment in accordance with industry standards, potential including to but not limited to hearing, respiratory protection, hearing, comma, respiratory protection, comma, and batteries for the electric power equipment. Again, I do think it's a little awkward because the intent for this section amendment is personal protective equipment. However, if you decide to leave out the battery issue, please in your next meeting, and I will email you, Madam Chair, this issue can make or break the ordinance. And the UL listed batteries are not having the fire hazard problems that we're reading about in the neighboring New York City and beyond. By just inserting UL listed or manufacturer recommended and rated batteries, which becomes a safety issue, I think it will help us withstand any challenges to this, but also it will be better at the get-go this year for anyone taking up using of batteries. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. We have one more comment. Hold on one second. Okay, we have one more speaker, Tyson. Please unmute yourself. Just give your full name and address for the record, and please go ahead.
Hi, it's Tyson Canterbury from Esquire Road in Norwalk. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I would first like to respond to Ms. Lauricella about batteries. She says UL listed. Well, Tesla batteries. I don't know if she read the Norwalk Hour lately, but how about the fire in the Norwalk Mall with the Tesla chargers? Tesla is now recommending you charge your car in the driveway and not in the house. Second of all, our landlords will not let us charge these batteries in the building. Who's going to pay for a burn room in the building?
It's not on the agenda.
Okay, well, she just
Yeah.
spoke of it. I can't speak of it now. She's saying we should use UL listed batteries. I would just like to speak of why are we being attacked as an industry? Why is construction workers not listed as they need earmuffs and goggles? I was driving by the YMCA today, tearing down a building. They don't have earmuffs and goggles. But you're saying the landscape industry, these electric lawnmowers you ask us to buy, $36,000. Who's going to pay for that? I mean, this rhetoric about all this electric, when the city owns 0 pieces of equipment, that's what really bothers me. I talk to the DPW guys out on the street all the time. They're not using any of this. I mean, but you require us as a small business industry, the working man. These meetings always seem to come up in the busy season. I mean, I worked a 12-hour day today, and then I got to sit and listen to a Zoom meeting about earmuffs and goggles. I mean, you expect me to go out and buy 25 pairs of these for my guys. They're not going to wear them. So I'm going to get a fine from your light officer because they don't put them on. I mean, but I can see Pennant Construction out there digging holes and working with jackhammers, and they're not required to put anything on. So how do you differentiate all the time? It's always the landscaper. It's just, this is nothing but a feel-good ordinance for a small few. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Is there anyone else who has their hand raised? Oh, wait, I think Brian, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Figured it out eventually. No, there's nobody else who's raising their hand.
Okay, so the next order of business is to accept the minutes of March 19th. Is there a motion to accept the minutes? Thank you, Jalen. Does anyone have any comments or changes that they'd like to make to the ordinance minutes from the meeting of March 19th, 2024? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes as they were published? Melissa, are you good for the minutes? Oh, you might have
Abstaining.
not been. Thank you. So that's 6 votes to accept. Are there any votes to abstain? one vote to abstain. All righty, thank you very much. All right, so the new business is to discuss and vote on the amendment to the leaf blower ordinance, which is section 4. And I just want to give everybody a little bit of a heads up about how this came to be, because Vanessa is not here. The DPW group was taking a look at the ordinance and trying to comply. And that is their view that they do want to have eye and hearing protection for our DPW workers. But what was unclear was respiratory protection. And so we went to the manufacturer recommended and rated personal protective equipment for gas leaf blowers. And basically what's required is headphones, as we discussed, and eye protection, but there wasn't a standard for respiratory protection. And so DPW told us that in order to have appropriate respiratory protection, we would have to go out and rate it ourselves and spend money to determine what the appropriate masks are for protection of workers when it's not manufactured, recommended, and rated. And so we're making this change to the leaf blower ordinance at the request of the Public Works Department, and it makes sense because we certainly want to keep everybody as protected as we can. So as there is a little bit of a mistake in this draft.
Eye protection
because-
instead of respiratory protection.
Well, we dropped the word eye, so it should say potential, including but not limited to eye, comma, hearing, and respiratory protection. If they were to add respiratory protection at a later date. And then, so we basically took out the language that said OSHA approved because there isn't an OSHA approved protection for the respiratory protection, and the manufacturers, we wanted to go with what the manufacturer recommends and rates for personal protection. So that is where we left things. And batteries are not included in this draft. This wasn't something that at this time we were ready to make changes for. We'd have to take and do more research in order to determine what would be appropriate for batteries. That isn't something that we were looking at and we weren't responding to for DPW. So I just wanted to give everybody some background about that. And then we'll say this subject shall go into effect in a later date in December of 2024, and that'll just determine when it goes to Common Council. So I wanted to open up the discussion for this. What we'd like to do is have everybody review this, feel comfortable with it, and then we'll send it to public hearing in June. We'd like to do this, before we did this as quick as we could. We know that we're going into the summer season and we want to do this before people are on holiday. Josh, you have a question or comment?
The only thing I just want, I think, people to just get, or at least something that I want to glean is, I know the part of this that got the most attention was about the issues pertaining to basically the ultimate elimination of leaf blowers. Obviously, this amendment has nothing to do with that. It seems to have to do with only the first part, which has to do with, protective equipment for, for workers. So I just want to make sure that we're framing the contours of this specific amendment and it not just be sort of a full-blown, pardon the pun, like discussion about you sort of relitigating what was litigated last session.
Exactly. No, this is really specific and we're just responding to what DPW wants us to do to make sure that we're properly protecting DPW workers as well as landscaper workers out in the industry as well. Melissa, would you have a comment? Do you have a comment?
I think Josh I'm still kind of processing what Josh said, but I think he answered my question, so I want to think about it.
Okay, we'll go to Jalen. It seems like you had your hand up next, and we can come back to you, Melissa, if when you get your question.
Yeah, I had a question just about like how this is gonna be like enforced, especially for like not DPW, but like the small businesses. Because like in the public comment, I do know that like we could say this, but then and even like the owners of these businesses can't give it to their employees, but a lot of times employees don't use these safety equipment that's put there for their protection. So maybe not in the ordinance, because I know this is just us saying it, like this is what people should do. But I did have a question about the enforcement of it, because I know that it will be tough for owners to really enforce it with their employees. I just know just at with my job, a lot of people just don't use the PPE that they should be using.
Yeah, so the way that it was written in the original ordinance was that the blight officer would be responding to this. So that's where it's at. But
Okay.
it is true. I mean, these are hard to enforce. But the hope is also that to some degree, we're letting people in the public know, and hopefully the workers know that the manufacturer tells people that in order to be safe in using this device, they ought to have eye and hearing protection.
Definitely agree. It's like the user manual pretty much.
Yeah. Ms. Dunn?
So as far as the city's concerned, I don't remember seeing this in the budget. Is this something that DPW asked for in the budget? I don't know where that line item is. If it does.
I don't know that it is in the, I mean, we did discuss budgetary, you know, what the impact would be for budgetary. So they are getting eye and hearing protection for their workers, which I'm glad the city is doing that. This is an important thing because the hearing impact is substantial and the eye risk is high.
And can you also make sure that any requests from DPW from Vanessa are forwarded on to all of us as well? That's all. Thank you.
Melissa?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say about the hearing, and I don't know how we would go about it, is I think it is really important to have hearing protection. But I have witnessed people with leaf blowers and got their hearing protection on, and then they walk into the street. And so I wish there was some kind of guidance for them on, you know, they should not be walking into the street, but they couldn't hear a car behind them kind of thing. So I don't know how we would even go about that. I just wanted to put that out there because the lack of hearing with the noise of the leaf blower and the hearing, it's not a great situation when it's that loud. The other thing is I think it's really important to have this delineated and make it clear that it is an expectation, even if it is hard to enforce. Because to what the public comment said, well, why don't we make all construction workers do it? I have a construction family, and I can tell you when they've worked with heavy machinery and it's that loud, they go out there with their own equipment. But leaf blowers, I think sometimes people don't throw it on because they think it's going to be 20 minutes or something quick, and they don't realize the damage. So I think it's really important, even when it's hard to enforce.
Thank you. Nora, do you have a comment?
I do, thanks. Yeah, you know, piggybacking off everyone else, but I think that part of the point of this is, again, to change the culture around this. I think about helmets and skiing and biking. And when we were kids, you know, and now it's just de rigueur. Everyone does it, right? So I think that, you know, and I'm really grateful to DPW. I've talked to Vanessa about not only DPW's crews themselves modeling this, but also our contractors modeling this, right? That, you know, the expectation is that if you are doing work for the city, whether you're an employee or a contractor, is that going to be perfect? No, but the more we set the expectation, the more it will happen over time, the more we're protecting people's life and health. Because again, I would say, you know, and we value these lives, right? We value people. We do not want our landscapers to have life expectancies of a decade less than an average person, right? That's not acceptable. And I think so. I think that we really here are speaking for our value, that we value these people. We want them to be part of our community. And that means you want them to be here for their full lifespans. And that means making sure that they are not getting their lives cut short through respiratory distress and illness and other things that have been shown to be associated with unprotected use. So by all means, all of our folks should be wearing them. You know, we should call out all of our crews that are exposed to dust and noise and pollution. And I really applaud our DPW team for being willing to take the lead on showing how this can be done and doing it. And I look forward to making these kind of adjustments if necessary to accommodate as we learn from this process. But I think that it will be beneficial for everyone. And again, it is actually truly because we value them that we are asking them to keep themselves safe.
Thank you. Melissa, you had a follow-up comment?
Yeah, just piggybacking again on what Nora said. I remember when seatbelts came in, and people said, well, how are you going to see if someone has a seatbelt on in their car? There's no way to enforce that. And they learned ways to enforce that. If you're stopped without it, if, you know, they know when you have a seatbelt on. So we know that that saves lives. So I feel as exactly as Nora's saying, this is a cultural conversation and a cultural shift that we're working for, and it's going to be good in the long run.
Great. Thank you. Any further comments before we take it to a vote to take it to public hearing next month? Seeing none, all in favor of taking the leaf blower section 4 required safety features for the use of leaf blowers to public hearing. So that is 5 of us. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Ms. Dunn is abstaining. Great. So that is, I think, the full agenda. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Melissa. And we did it. It's still light out, I promised.
Yay.
All right, everybody go out and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Good work.
Bye.
We'll,
Good night,
Thanks
everyone.
again to everyone who
later.
showed up
Bye.
and spoke.
All right.
Be
Good.
safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.